Louis, welcome to the program.
Hey, so how you doing, sir?
Good to see you, man.
Likewise, likewise.
It's been a long time. How did you get into theater?
Into theater in general? Or
Just theater in general, yeah.
Theater
like
in
as a
general.
kid or...
Okay, well, a while back, when I was in high school, I wanted to perform in some sort of way. I actually wanted to be a filmmaker. And,
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and actually...
Save that thought. We'll talk about that some more.
Exactly, yeah. But then I got into theater because I figured if you're going to be a filmmaker, you got to understand actors and how they process, how they work. So
Sure.
I took a theater class in my sophomore year in high school. Since then, I've been involved in theater as much as possible.
Right.
Not much in high school because I was actually more involved in band than anything.
Okay. So you played what instrument did you play?
I played the saxophone.
Ooh.
Yeah, all tenor, alto, and baritone. All three of those saxophones I played throughout my high school career, and didn't open a lot of opportunities for me because of my schedule to do theater. So I just kind of put that on the side to graduate high school. And once I graduated, I moved to Houston. I went to school in Dallas. And,
oh, really?
Yes.
So when was that?
I graduated 2003.
Okay.
So
that'd be after we left, yeah.
Right.
But,
okay.
There's a lot of folks, they're from the Dallas area that in here. We'll talk about that. So that's a separate topic in itself.
Right.
Dallas versus Houston.
So you try to go to college, and that's actually kind of a story on its
Different
own.
story on its
Different
own.
story on its own,
No problem.
But since then, I've just worked job after job, just trying to support myself. Once I graduated high school, and I moved to Baytown, actually, not really Houston.
Right.
Moved to Baytown. My dad told me of a community theater called the Baytown Little Theater.
Okay.
And he told me they're doing Annie Get Your Gun, and he explained to me the director needed more coarse men, and which is needed in most community theaters.
Need men.
Right, exactly. So I was pretty game for it, and I figured, why not? So I got involved with that summer production. It was a really strange experience because I never really worked on anything like that in terms of musical or in terms of play or anything. I've taken a lot of classes on it, but not really, never really was a part of it. So it was really nice, and they were very welcoming, and I learned a lot from the director and from the other actors.
Right.
And I guess there's one song in particular where they needed 4 men to sing, two baritones, a bass, and a tenor.
Right.
And somebody asked, I guess they asked the group of guys who reads music, and having all the experience I had with band, I knew how to read music. So I tried all 4 of the parts, and I guess they declared me as the tenor. I've actually never sang before at all since before then.
Really?
Yes.
It was just the instrument. You play all these instruments, but not really sing.
I've never really used my voice as an instrument.
Wow.
So it was kind of
not even a choir or anything like that?
No choir.
Really?
Interesting. I mean, probably driving to school or anything like that. But no, I really didn't sing at all before then. So
basically, you've had this other instrument just kind of laying on the shelf there you hadn't used yet.
Well, it was very dusty apparently. Because, I think I've grown quite a bit since then. But it was kind of nice. It was kind of nice actually hearing people like, oh wow, he could kind of sing. He could sing those high notes. So since that time, I've taken vocal lessons to kind of polish it up a little bit from different vocal trainers or coaches, and then I got involved in more. I got involved in other productions with the Baytown Little Theater. Low Night Music was one show that I did after Annie Get Your Gun, and didn't really have a big part. It was just kind of the chorus member, which was nice, which was still a good experience. And then I decided to go to Lee College, which is a community college in Baytown. Okay. And I decided to get involved in the acting program there, and I guess the head of the acting or the drama department, I went up to him privately into his office. I was asking, I was really expressing interest in wanting to further my acting career.
Absolutely.
So he basically sat down and told me, there's some people that have it and there's some people that don't. And he pointed to one actor in the class. She has it. You.
Well, great.
So that kind of
that's not exactly what you were looking for,
right? That kind of lacerated my dreams of ever wanting.
So who is this guy anyway?
I don't even remember him anymore. Who knows him? I mean, I don't know anyone who does know him anymore. He's not there anymore, from what I understand.
Really?
But, and I don't want to name names.
No, that's fine.
But So yeah, so then I was like, okay, so that's my answer to that. But that didn't stop me from wanting to learn how to develop my singing voice more. So I did that. I kind of put theater aside, just focused on the voice.
Right.
I took a break for a while, and then I auditioned for another play, the Baytown Little Theater. It was actually a series of short plays, and I actually did 2 of them, and that was a good experience because it was the first thing I ever did that had like lines to it. Then I took another break, a longer break, and got cast in a show called Brigadoon.
That's an excellent.
It's a great show, and
great show.
It was a fun show. It was a good experience. Met a lot of great friends. I got cast as Charlie in that. And he has some really good songs. And but the one musical that really kind of got me really wanting to do theater more was The Fantastics.
Really?
I did that. That was one of the first shows I did in Houston, actually. Everything I always did in Baytown. It was
right.
It was really difficult when breaking out my bubble because I was only familiar with people who were in Baytown, and I really kind of took a chance.
You're comfortable with that, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think a lot of actors have that problem. They get too comfortable with where they're at, and they don't want to work anywhere else. So I think I always encourage people to try different venues, try different companies. It's not being disloyal to the company that you started with, but it's just it's good to see what else is out there.
Well, it helps you also to be a better actor.
Exactly.
And if you want to go back, that's great.
Yeah, and I've been back since then. Really, not a whole lot, actually. I really haven't been back to do much there.
But you don't live that close to Baytown anymore, right?
I really don't live that close to anything. I mean, I was traveling to Galveston to do a show.
I know people have done that, yes.
And,
from the Woodlands.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's crazy. I asked them, how did they do that? And said, I don't want to talk about it.
Well, the commute here is not. I mean, it's pretty.
Well, it depends on where you. I mean,
well, I'm living in the museum district, so it's about a 45. Well, right now it took me about an hour and a half to get here today because of the traffic. Right. But it's, I mean, honestly, the show's good. The company's great. The actors are great. It's worth the drive.
You're not the only ones driving. I think the longest commute that we had was somebody from Dallas. She was a stewardess.
No.
And well, of course, she didn't come every night. What she would do is she would fly here because she worked for Southwest Airlines.
Right.
She would fly, and then she would say, "Look, I can only be here like 4 days of the week," and that's fine. You know, fabulous dancer, fine. So that was the longest commute for that I know. But routinely, Woodlands to Galveston, which is that's crazy. Yeah. But they would do it I don't know how they did it. I really don't.
And I did have a good experience with that Galveston show. I did Godspell, which was a fun show. And,
was that ETC or was that?
That was an ETC.
Oh, that was ETC.
That was before they moved into the Strand.
Yes. Okay.
But yeah, I had a really good. Originally, that's kind of funny because I was originally cast as John the Baptist, and I'm thinking that's awesome. It's a great part. John Preston, and he then becomes Judas later in the show.
Right.
I learned all my lines. I got all my lines down for that part. I had them all memorized. I had the songs nailed. I was seeing a private lesson teacher on that as well.
Right.
I got everything down. Our first read through, we sit there, and the director says, "Our actor who's playing Jesus had to drop out, so we're going to give you that part."
Oh, no.
That's pretty cool.
But
wait a minute. But it was really, I mean, even though I wouldn't say it's an upgrade. They're both great parts.
Sure.
It was just Jesus was a lot more challenging. Of course, they don't call him Jesus though. I mean, he is Jesus in the
right.
But anyway, Stephen is actually the original actor, or I can't remember the original actor's name who played him, but they call him Stephen. But he represents Jesus in the film.
Right.
We'll just call him Jesus for the sake
we know. Yes.
Yeah, we all know. So anyway, but that was a really good experience. But I've just been doing shows after show. I mean, I probably averaged about 5 shows a year for the past 8 years.
Not as bad as Brian Heaton, but yes.
Yeah.
It's still quite. That's quite a bit of shows.
I don't brag about it, but
that's quite a bit of shows.
No, I mean, I just always kind of every time I got done with the production, I was always wanting to do something else. Something else came up, and I always try to make every show I do a challenge. I always try to find challenging things with it. Like different characters. I mean, I've gone from playing the Prince Charming characters to like the bad guys to I once played a 44-year-old who had a 20-year-old kid. And my next play that I'm doing, I'm playing a 5-year-old. So it's, I know. I mean, I like to try to make my resume as diverse as possible. Right. And plus, it just depends on who I'm working with because I think since I don't have any real training, all my training comes through experience.
Absolutely.
Through different people I work with. Deborah,
sure.
I've worked with Deborah before, and she really kind of tore me down the first time she worked with me, and just build me to be a better actor. And
Right.
she takes everything that makes you comfortable on stage, that makes you comfortable on stage, away from you, so you feel uncomfortable, and so you discover new things about yourself, and that's what really drove me to do a show up here. That, and I've seen shows at the Crighton, and I love the space. I wanted to be a part of, and plus stage right. I've known you guys.
Let's talk about the characterization, because there are actors, and you've run into them too, that don't want to get better. Okay, which is kind of interesting. Community theater, it's all about the experience, because really you don't get paid, right? So it's all volunteer. So what do you take away from it? Well, the only thing you take away is the friends that you meet and the experience that you have.
Yes.
So why not make it more than just, let's just copy this experience from last time, whatever, but try to grow. But I'm sure people that they really don't want to do any more than what they can do.
Well, there's some people that, which, it's fine with them. I mean, that they're only able to do that one character, that one part, which, if that's what makes them happy, that's great, because they obviously are happy doing it because they continue to do it every show.
Right.
And they may be really good at that sometimes. Right. They're not. But that's why I always, for me, I mean, you're right, we don't get paid for this. I just love creating. I love interpreting different characters. I don't create the character. I interpret it differently from what I get from the script.
Sure.
Since I feel like I can play different parts, and I have that advantage of playing different parts. Like, I'm not too tall, so I've always been told, like, if you're too tall, you're always going to play the villain.
Right.
And or if you have a
certain look,
you're always going to play that particular.
Right.
And I think that I could play many different roles. I always wanted to play the villain, though. The closest I ever got to do that was when I played Rooster and Annie, which.
It's
pretty cartoonish. It's very light.
Yes.
It's very cartoonish. But I just try to make every part as different as possible. I mean,
absolutely.
And we'll get into how this is a little different than anything else I've done.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about that. It may not be the first time that I actually saw you, but the first time I ever remember seeing you was at Ace in The Boys Next Door.
Yes.
Excellent production. That is not a musical. It's not even close. It's
very
heavy
different.
drama. How did you approach that character?
That was very difficult to approach because I really wanted to do it justice. Because I had to figure out, because these characters, the four characters who, they kind of had their own different disabilities.
Sure.
Mine was schizophrenic. He was very paranoid. He was bipolar. I actually did a lot of research. As a matter of fact, whenever I worked on the road, at that time I was traveling from clients to clients all over the place, and I was actually in Willis, where I did most of my research. There's a library in Willis. I just happened to, one of my clients was there at the time, and I did a lot of my research in that library.
In Willis?
In Willis, yeah, and just learning about the characteristics of the character Arnold, who I portrayed.
Sure.
Also, just how he fit in that group. I mean, he always, I always saw himself as the leader, or he thought he was the leader.
Right.
And he kind of had that Napoleon kind of problem. I mean, he was not saying he was short or anything like that, but he just kind of felt like he was a very small man, but he was also he felt like he was very powerful and he was above everyone else. When really, I mean, he definitely was somewhat aware of his issues. That whole production was probably one of the best productions, non-musicals, I've ever been a part of, because it introduced me to a lot of great actors.
Awesome cast.
Carolyn was phenomenal in that.
Who else was it? I mean,
Carolyn, Sam Martinez.
Sam was in there, yeah, absolutely.
Sam Martinez, Brian Heaton.
Brian Heaton, of course. Glenn Lambert, yeah.
Glenn Lambert, James Reed.
James Reed, awesome actors.
Directed by Phil Nichols, who's currently doing a show right now at Country Playhouse Frankenstein.
Yes.
But I remember when I first got the part, and our first read through, I'm looking around, I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of guys here. that was kind of the general thought between all the guys.
Right.
All these guys here. So.
Well, this is a guy's show.
I know, it is a guy's show. And I think I just got done doing Rumors, and I love Ace Theater. Unfortunately, it's no longer there
unfortunate, yes.
But I did, the first show I did there was Little Shop of Horrors.
Okay.
That was a great production.
That's Andrew's show, right? Andrew Adams? Yeah.
He was in that. Michael Taylor is who directed that.
Oh, really? Okay.
And the Landons, Wayne Landon and Rachel Landon, had a lot to do with that production as well. And it was, and then I did Rumors there, which was I've always wanted to do a Neil Simon play, so I got that I have like a checklist of plays I want to do.
Oh, that's your bucket list.
I have a bucket list of plays, and pretty much, I'm getting there. I'm still working on a Sondheim show. I haven't done one yet.
Oh dear.
But Low Night Music. But I don't,
Well,
I don't like that.
yeah.
But anyway, I still have time.
Right.
But anyway, going back to Boys Next Door, I did that production there, and I just got done doing I Love You Perfect Now Change at Ace Theater, and it was such a strange transition doing like comedy, musical theater comedy, and going straight into a very serious play like that. At the same time, when you get too close to a character, you tend to take over a little bit, and I had these breakdowns driving home.
Well, we talk about that too. We talk about are there characters that you won't do because you consider them dangerous? And to me, that's you're starting to get kind of close with it.
Yeah, I'm doing a character right now. Actually, I haven't opened the production yet, but we open next month after I did this show. It's I probably wouldn't do this character again. Not Prince Charming, but I play a 5-year-old boy who is abused, and he's attempted suicide, and of course it's just such a very deep subject, and this is what I'm talking about by diverse. I mean, that's a very different role than
it's pretty different
than
what Cinderella. It's Prince Charming, right?
Also, I'm trying. No, I mean, other than the show that I would be currently doing next, I mean, I would probably never do that show. Probably won't do that show again. Yeah.
You've grown as a person, you've grown as an actor, absolutely.
Exactly.
You're going to approach it differently.
And sometimes the shows are so great. I mean, I've done the Fantastics 3 times, all as Matt. And I've played each character. I played each Matt differently, each production. Godspell I've done 3 times, just because it's a good workout. It's a very physical play. So I figured if my gym membership is expired, I could just do a production of Godspell. Just
there you go.
Shape. And then I did Love You Perfect Now Change twice. So that was just because I had really fun doing that show, and I love,
Well, let's talk about characterization. How do you approach a character?
Well, first, you have to read the script. You have to understand what's going on. Where the character's going through at the moment, who they surround themselves with, because that really does affect a person. And I think of them as people, not really characters, because they are people. Sometimes there are a lot of actors who do this, where they actually take characters or they take people in their lives, and they find little mannerisms that may remind them of that one particular character, the person that they're playing, and they add it to that. I actually had a friend who I did a show with a long time ago. She basically told me, just make an outline. We actually sat at Starbucks after a show, and she said, just make an outline of your character, the family members, friends, where they live. I mean, like who, what, when, where. I mean, just where they were born. I mean, where they raised, how they were raised. So I mean, doing that extensive research of a character really does help find who the character is, and helps portray the character on stage. Did I do that all the time for all my productions? Yes, for the most part. But of course, then you have to learn the lines first. And once you confidently know the lines, then you can actually start adding little things to the character. It's kind of like building a house. I mean, you have your foundation, different characters. I mean, I've gone from playing that all bit, once you have that all done, and then you can start painting the walls. And
I think it's a perfect metaphor, for kind of building the character.
Yeah.
When you work with other folks, or as you've been looking at different characters, have you looked at the different acting schools of thought, styles, and kind of take, I can use that, and I really don't care for that?
All the time. That's the great thing about working with great actors, is you kind of take from what they do, and also from the bad actors. You kind of step away from what they're doing. But for the most part, I've always worked with great, experienced, well-adept actors. I could name drop some names who I'm not going to, because I'll just if they see this, I'll just feed their ego a little more. But there's some actors, and there's nothing more than an actor with an inflated ego.
Hey, you gotta have some ego to get up on stage and bare your soul.
But there's some actors I actually, if I'll have them see me in a show, and I actually would go to them. I mean, everyone would tell me, I'll push people away, saying, "Oh, you did a great job. You did a great job." Like, all right, just go away. Let me go to my friend real quick, and I'll ask them, "How did I do?" And he'll always be honest with me, or she will always be honest with me. Sometimes the truth really
That hurts. Oh yes, it can
Sometimes
hurt.
it does, and it's kind of like, well, I did,
But
it was.
once you get past that though,
Yeah.
right? The hurt part, because we all do that, right?
It does.
Then you can absorb what they're saying. And how do you filter what you take versus, I heard you, but I don't really need that, or I'm not going to use that. How do you filter that? You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. And just, I mean, whatever suggestions other actors make, I mean, that's just going to be, that may work for them. It just works differently for different actors, because actors are different.
Sure.
There's one particular actor who I would go to. He doesn't do musical theater.
Right.
But he does straight plays very well, or he does regular plays very well. There's some things I would take from most people, but as for like advice, normally I don't get bad advice because I don't ask. I know who to ask.
Right.
So I never
That's
really.
important.
Yeah, I never really do get a lot of bad advice from other actors because the actors who I do ask, I know are professional enough to make the right,
And they know you
decisions.
long enough too, right? So
Yes,
they
exactly.
already know, they'll know what parts you could work on or that you're willing to listen to. There's some things that probably, we're not going to touch that.
Well, that's why I worked with Deb for the first time, because she actually told me that. She saw me in a few shows before, and she says I really want, before she cast me in a show called Theater Trip at her college.
Right.
And Theater Trip was a very interesting show because it was just a 3-person show, but my character was known as the Man. He was featured in the first 35 minutes or first 30 minutes of the show by himself, and all I had to work with was monologues. And my character was very, he was a character in a play, the setting was not really, there was no setting, it was just a black backdrop with a few cubes to sit down on.
Pretty minimalist, yeah.
Yeah, very minimal, and it was a very obscure play. And I basically was talking to this godlike figure who was the writer of the play, and I was basically arguing with the writer because he didn't have anything for me to do in this play. and that went on for about 30 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
And
so how do you make, this is interesting too. There's certain parts of plays, and Carol's had to do this too, search for signs, where you're on stage for a long time, and you have to find a way to keep the audience engaged. So how did you do that for the 30 minutes?
Well, that's for any play, even if you're on a play for like 5 minutes or so. I mean, you have to really you have to really know your audience. And you would automatically know, for some reason, whenever I walk on stage, I just get this feeling. It's like, I know the energy. I mean, I can feel the energy.
You can sense it, absolutely.
You can totally sense the energy. For that show, I mean, we had 30 seats, because it was a smaller black box production, we had 30 seats, and we probably filled it, I don't know, probably average 15, 20 people a night. But still, I mean, you're
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you're acting. I mean, it's a very intimate setting because I was very close to the actors or the audience members.
Right.
But it's kind of like having a conversation with a person. You just have to find ways to make whatever you're saying more interesting to keep them captivated.
Right.
Because you can tell when you're about to lose them.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Sometimes I've had off nights, and I'm like, I've lost him. I'm not going to get him back. Let me just finish this play so I can start all over tomorrow.
Sometimes it's like that, but...
Yeah, sometimes it's like that, but sometimes you can win them over. And audiences are different, too. I mean,
absolutely.
They react differently. They'll laugh at certain things, but you should never... If they laugh at one thing one night, you should never expect them to laugh at the same thing the next night. Because I have a lot of problem. Well, a lot of actors do have that problem where they get a laugh. They're like, oh, I just got a laugh. If I do it bigger and broader tomorrow, it's going to get a bigger laugh, and they do it.
Different audience, though.
Yeah.
Right? It's a different audience.
Very different.
You don't know where
audience.
they came from, and it maybe fall flat.
Right. And you just kind of, the more experience, I mean, the more you do it, the more you feel the energy.
Sure.
I remember the first night even when I did this show, the first opening night of any show is always nerve-wracking because you never know how they're going to react.
Sure.
And the other nerve-wracking thing is once you start talking, once you show up on stage, they're going to judge you. Because I was always told by a director, you're always remembered for your entrances and your exits. I mean, if if you know the play and the character is a really big part of the play,
Right.
and the actor who comes out who's portraying the character starts talking, he's doing a horrible job within the first minute, you're going to be stuck with that actor for the next 2 hours. So you really have to make a good first impression, and making first impressions to audience members can be hard sometimes. So yeah.
That's interesting. Considering that you're pretty busy doing things, do you ever get a chance to see other friends do shows?
Oh,
or you
yes.
go to Tuts or
Definitely.
other places?
Well,
yeah.
I don't see a lot of professional theater. When I have money.
Right. It costs money.
It does cost money. You're right, but I also tend to. I mean, I very much do support my friends.
Right.
My friend. I mean, I happen to have an availability, free time last week to see a show that's running with Cinderella, and I was very happy to see it.
Sure.
So I support as much as possible, and it's also good because I know the good actors from the bad actors, so I am going to just focus on the good acting rather than the other actors. So it's also good for learning.
Sure. Absolutely.
I wish I saw more professional theaters. Like, I wish I saw more alley shows.
You know what? Not to belt anyone. I just saw Noises Out There.
How was it?
I think the person who wrote the review must have been their mother, because
you see that a lot.
Well, you know that, and well, no, and okay. Community theater, I understand there's going to be an unevenness in talent and stuff like that, but you're there to support them because really they're just, again, all they get is what you give back to them, which is appreciation.
Yes.
To them. Someone who's paid to do it, I expect more. And I think
exactly.
You should expect more. And this is true not just the alley. I don't want to badmouth the alley. It's true of all professional theater. I've seen it in London. I've seen it in New York. And I've seen some really good shows, and I've seen some really crappy shows, and I paid a lot of money for that. And I'm like, what the heck? And I don't know, like the same crutches that sometimes you'll see, even in other types of theater, where they could have done this right, or they played it for a cheap laugh, or they played it. I saw Richard Dreyfuss do that. Okay, when he was, it was a Prisoner of Fifth Avenue or whatever the show was with Marshall Mason. I wanted to see them both. Great, I got to see them both. But when I came away taking that, yes, I enjoyed it. They could have done so much a better job than they did, and that's true of all theater. It can rise to just incredible heights, and then sometimes it can disappoint you.
I actually saw a production of Harvey at the Alley, and before then, I've always loved the movie. The movie is one of my all-time favorite films. Jimmy Stewart does an amazing job.
Incredible.
Yes. It's an amazing movie. I mean, and I was really hyped up to see it at the Alley.
Yes,
because it was my first thing I saw at the Alley. Yeah. One of my first things I saw at the Alley on the main stage, and I was really excited. And then when I saw it, I was very disappointed. It was just the characterization. They didn't really. I mean, he was portrayed as just. He felt like he was portrayed as just loud drunk, and they really took the charm out of the show or from the story. And some of the characters, they're not as consistent with one another, which also kind of took away from me as well. But I still, that's a really tough script, and it's a great script. It's just tough. It's a tough,
it's typical older school 3-act, so that's tough. Most of us can't make 3 acts anymore. We got to turn it into 2 or something. It's just, so much.
Actually, one of my first plays that wasn't a musical, full-length play, actually, that wasn't a musical, was The Importance of Being Earnest. And that was a 3-act play. That was a great, that was a great play, too. Or at least my mom told me it was. Yeah. But no, it was great because I was playing the protagonist, John Worthing, and that was a really good experience because it was a big line load for me. And I thought I did a fair job at the time. I'll probably do that play again.
Really? Yeah.
Because it was a really good experience, and it's a great script, and great dialogue, and great interaction with the actors.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Is there any shows that you want to do that you haven't done yet?
When I'm old enough, I love to play Dow and Harvey.
You done Les Mis already?
I've not done Les Mis. Actually, I like to do Les Mis, but more than anything, I love to do. I love to play the lead in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying.
Oh, yeah.
And the producers actually.
Yes.
I've actually. That was one of the first musicals I actually heard that really got me wanting to do musicals. Was The Producers, and I liked Mel Brooks at the time. I'm like, I'll listen to the CD, and I really enjoyed the humor to it, and I always like Matthew Broderick as a performer, a musical theater performer.
Sure.
so yeah, I'm still trying to find theaters who are going to do good productions of that in the future.
That's a tough one, because there are shows that people think we want to do, but they all have specific requirements. Like, for instance, I would love to do Thoroughly Modern Millie. I saw Sutton Foster do that. Awesome, but you've got to have just a whole, army of dancers that can tap. You need really good leads, not just one or two leads, but at least 5 good leads, at least. But again, we just saw that at a community theater in Stowe, Vermont, and I'll grab they didn't have the huge stage, they didn't have the resource that they had on Broadway. They didn't have Sutton Foster, but but still, they did a reasonable job. But I just like, oh my goodness, I'd love to do this, but man, all the people we would need to do this, I don't know.
I mean, community theater and professional theater, 2 totally different things. I mean, it's theater nonetheless, but it's.
Yes.
I mean, if I didn't have a day job, I probably would probably be a little more polished in my characterizations that I put on stage, but at the same time, I still put a lot of hard work into it.
Absolutely.
But as for the dancing, I really wish I knew how to dance.
Really?
I am not as strong as a dancer as. I would honestly, if you show me something challenging, I'll later get it by at least closing night. But and that's why I liked really doing Annie, because Rooster was a dancing heavy part, and
that's right.
The woman who played Hannigan and the girl who played Lily. I mean, they're very experienced in dancing, so they kind of took me aside and kind of walked me through it.
Right.
And I worked really hard on that dance, and every time we performed it, every night, people were applauding in the middle of it. So that really was a great feeling for me. So,
wow.
So it was really probably one of the fun dancing experiences I've had on stage.
We were talking to one of the actors here, and he said he can sing, he has a decent voice, but he doesn't like to do musicals because when you're doing drama, if you forget a line or you don't get the timing quite right, you can kind of work your way through it, right? But because of the relentless beat of the music, if you forget it, you got to stay to the beat.
Yes. Musical theater is difficult, and I do get a lot of flack for doing musical theater from my friends because they don't.
Well, they don't think it was real?
No, they don't.
Oh, really? Well, because we got stuck with the comedy thing. We specifically choose comedies and musicals because we still treat this time that we're living in as a depression. And what did people want in the depression? They wanted entertainment.
Right. Exactly.
Even you could even characterize American theater as mostly they want entertainment.
Right.
And if you've got a little place for a black box, you can do it. That's nice, but that's again this limited audience appeal. You're not going to get as many people there too. Etc. So it is very different. And also, so we get this moniker, you just do fluff.
Right.
Well, you know what? I got to pay bills.
Right. I mean, I did, whenever I did I Love You Perfect Now Change,
yes.
We actually, when we saw, it's a great musical, a little different vignettes about relationships, and we did it at the Black Box,
right.
And we, at a theater, Country Playhouse,
right.
And we sold out the Thursday before we opened, every performance for the whole run. And I was telling my friend, I was like, hey, we sold... Just, I wasn't showing off. I was just...
No, you just mentioned it.
I just mentioned it. It's like, hey, we sold out every show. It's like,
right.
And he just said, oh, yeah, it's really easy to sell out every show that seats, a theater that seats 70 people. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it's true. And I knew that he did a show years before then. I was like, so did you ever sell that show that you did at the time? And he's like, shut up. But no, you do what makes people happy. I mean,
right.
People are intrigued with like the non-musicals, like
Absolutely.
more deeper stuff. And I do too. I love watching both non-musicals and musicals.
Sure.
But I think a lot of people find a lot of joy in musical theater.
Yeah. I guess it's back to who are you playing for. Again, no names, but I think sometimes people do things almost as vanity theater. It's I want to do this part or whatever, and I'm going to invite all my friends to come see me. I do appreciate when our friends come to see us, but that's not why we do it.
Exactly.
It is important for actors to stretch and to learn new things, and the only way to do that is really to do different things.
Right.
That part I understand. Okay, and that means that maybe you do have to get away from big comedies and music. But you know what? We were just talking about this with other folks. Not everyone has comic timing. So, and you've probably seen that too.
That is very true.
You're right. And we said, well, how do you teach someone comic timing? If you were working with an actor, okay, who, their timing sucks, okay, in a comic sense, what do you do?
That's a good question.
Well, you've never run into this.
I will have them go to someone else. Comic timing is very hard because you really have to know it. You really have to feel it. It has to. It's something that you probably won't discover the first time you read the script, or you probably won't even discover it until you actually perform in front of an audience. But it's something that you just have to. I want to say it's something you just can't learn. It's just a gift that you're born with, or anything like that. But comic timing, or any kind of, like, even dramatic timing, people tend to mess that up.
Yes.
You just have to know what's important, what's funny, what's vital to the line, to whatever you're saying at the time, and just, put whatever emphasis or little emphasis, or, you really have to understand that, and you really have to dissect the script to really discover what the timing should be for those lines that you're delivering. And also helps that, you have a good partner, a good acting partner that you're working with, who understands comic timing as well, because I've worked with actors who just didn't really understand the dialogue, or the lines, and
they're just saying something.
They're just saying it just to get off stage, or
It seems that way anyway.
And sometimes that's all you have to say is dialogue, because the dialogue just speaks for itself. You don't have to.
When it's well written, yes.
Yeah, when it's well written. If a cake tastes good, you don't have to add any more frosting to it.
Right.
So.
Well, let's get away from the comic time, but just in general, when you're working with a character, what do you want from your fellow actor?
I want them to listen. I listen a lot. Listening has always kind of been big for me, because you have to really listen to your actors. You have to. When I mean listen, when you're on stage. You really have to listening to what they're saying. So there's some people who, when you're talking to them on stage, they're probably going off and thinking, what am I going to do after the show? They can't get up. I've had that moment before, but whenever, and just, staying in the moment. Also being, it also helps that, you're able to interact. If something messes up, if we miss a line, if we drop a line, it's good to have them help me out, or it's good for me to help them out. It also helps that you know the person, very well off stage, and if you play friends on, in the show, just get to know the person a little better, and that way the chemistry is there.
Let's talk a little bit about Kathleen. So you brought her over, or at least you suggested that she come up here to try it. How did you meet Kathleen?
Kathleen who?
Baker.
She played the baker in the show? I don't. Kathleen.
So no clue who this person is.
No.
I'll let her.
She's gonna quite see this. No. Kathleen. I met Kathleen when I did Once Upon a Mattress.
Okay.
Yes. It was a fun production. I actually met a lot of great friends. It wasn't. When I mean it was a fun production, I wasn't really. It was a little disorganized, but the actors I worked with were phenomenal. I made a lot of great friends with that production. And the great thing about it was no one knew me. I went to my audition, and no one knew who I was. And that's what I was really looking for at that time. I wanted to kind of get away from the general...
People that knew you.
People who knew me.
No preconceived notions, right.
Exactly. So I auditioned for that play, and I got cast as Sir Harry.
Okay.
And which was a really fun part I've always wanted to do. And Kathleen was, I guess I sat next to her during a rehearsal. I think I was told that she was going to be my dancing partner in the big dance number in the middle of the show. And I just sat next to her, and we just started talking. And she was a really very sweet girl, very nice. And since then, we've been friends, and it's been about 2 years now. And she does a phenomenal job, and she actually adds more than I would expect that Cinderella would be. She adds a kind of attitude and kind of a lot of personality that I've never seen in a Cinderella. So,
and I don't know if this particular version kind of lends itself to that too. This modernized version, the Brandy Whitney Houston version, has a little more attitude, from the different characters and stuff like that. So, but not to take away from the actors.
Definitely.
It gives you that freedom to be able to, like I said, to change the characters a little bit from the stereotypical person.
Right. And also, I knew that she had that great look to her as well, because and her voice has that kind of Disney. Well, I don't want to say Disney because
Right.
we're trying to stay away from the Disney production
Right.
or Disney version, but she just has that kind of familiar princess-sounding Disney voice
Right.
that a lot of people
Can't thought of it that way, but yes.
Yeah.
Without being Disney. Yes.
No, of course. Yeah, definitely. And so I definitely recommend her for the part. I actually sent her all the information. I sent her bio and her headshot to Deb weeks in advance before rehearsal, before auditions, saying you need to look at this girl. She's really good. So I'm happy that she's playing Cinderella. I'm more happy that I'm able to work with her. The advantages is they are familiar with with how you work.
Sure.
I try to work as hard as possible with every production that I do. I try to be off book when you're supposed to be, sometimes before. I try to I try never to mistreat anyone, Harvey cast. So I think making a reputation of yourself is really important. And I believe that I have made a good reputation of myself. So I think it's also, I would say that's a good advantage. So.
Okay. What about disadvantages?
Well, let's go back to advantage for just one
second. We'll get to the advantages.
We'll get to disadvantages later. No, it's also, it trains you on how to adapt to different stages.
Yes.
That's important because if you're just familiar with thrust or with round, you're not going to know when you're thrown into a black box. And so you really do, I've never worked on a stage like, I have worked on stage like this before, it's just been a while.
Right.
So, it just teaches you to adapt to different environments and to different personalities of the actors or the production company that you're working with. So I think that's a huge advantage too, because it teaches you how to adapt. Disadvantages? Oh, once the production ends with that particular company, it's kind of sad not to be working with them.
You said because you're still friends with Kathleen, and that's the part when you do a show, you're very close for a short amount of time.
Yes.
And a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times after that group disperses, you really don't see them much anymore. You see them at the odd show every now and then, but unless you're working with them again, you don't see them. But I guess it's a little different, probably with the Boys Next Door cast. You said that what's on a mattress that
it was very different.
In
fact, the gentleman, another person who was in that play, I met up with yesterday just to hang out with. So yeah, and it's kind of like the last day of school. Whenever you first get involved in theater, it's like, oh, the last show. I'm so sad, and here's my number. Call me. And, put your phone number in the program, and I'll call you as soon as I get home, or I'll Facebook you. Of course, back then it was I'll MySpace you.
Right.
But now it's just kind of it's kind of sad to think about this. It's just going on to the next. But because I am, with social networks and
keep
how
up with
small,
what people are doing.
with how small the Houston theater community is, it is easy to catch up with people or keep up with them, see how they're doing, see what shows they're doing, and support them in other productions. So I would say that's a disadvantage, is not being able to work with that person in that production. It's hard, especially good productions. It's really hard to end productions like that. Of course, then you have your bad productions.
And it could be anything. It could be the people. It could be different stories. You'd be like, just ready to move on.
Just ready to move on. Can I we just opened and I'm already ready for this thing to close.
Been there for that.
But anyway, disadvantages. It's, I don't know, sometimes getting lost. Sometimes people, if you only work with this one theater and you only did this one thing, it's kind of hard for them to see you do something else in a different theater because they only involve themselves in that one theater. So, like, say if I'm doing something in 1960,
right?
Say I do some Shakespeare play 1960,
right?
I know some people from other theaters who will probably not want to go to that theater. So they probably never see me in a show
for different reasons.
Different
reasons, right?
So they're probably not familiar with what more I can do other than what I do with them at that time.
Right.
That's the best you're going to get from me.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll keep it nice.
Okay.
You know what? I think we're going to have you come back. There's no question about some other time. But I tell you, let's ask the question, if heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get to the pearly gates?
I hope that he'll give me a standing ovation.
Standing ovation!
All right.
Yeah.
Just saying, good job.
we're a little short over here in the tenor section. Could you come?
No, I don't know. I just if that exists, I'll just hope. Yeah, I mean seriously, I just hope God will tell me, good job. Very simple.
Okay, thanks for coming, and we will definitely have you back. We'll talk some more about Ace and some of these other places.
Yes, I mean I'd love to talk more about Cinderella and everything. So.
Absolutely.
All right.